Okay, thanks, Hollis. I appreciate it. Uh, we're at the time of the year where people are, the year is getting cooler. People are cooking more because of the holidays. We have that small handful of people out there that try to deep fry their turkeys in the living room, and consequently, fires occur probably more often this time of the year than any other time. And it's important to understand what kind of protection might be found in the house while we're inspecting. Uh, and I'm going to hit these highlights pretty quickly because this is a 2-hour program. I'm going to condense down to the talking points so I can get my point across to you folks that what you should be looking for. Now, in the old days, home inspectors used to test smoke detectors, but that turned out to be a bad thing to do for various reasons, and a lot of guys have stopped doing it. I know I have. So all I do now is to check to make sure they're in the right location and they're actually in the home, and that's as far as I go. And that's my disclaimer on that. Whether they work or not is beyond the scope, in my opinion, of what we're allowed to do or what we should be doing. So let's get started. There are two kinds of smoke detectors in the market today in residential homes: ionization and photoelectric. And I'm going to touch tonight on the stats on each one of those, the pros and cons. We're going to compare the two and see what works best, how well or how poorly they perform, and they do perform poorly depending on circumstances. The fail rates and fatal fires as a result of that. I'm going to discuss real differences in smoke alarms and how they affect property and eventually lives. There's over 1,000 fire deaths per year due to faulty or slow response smoke detectors. That's not a good number. This is a problem that's been around for a long time. It's been around since the 1980s when houses started using smoke detectors on a regular basis. And as home inspectors, we are in a unique position to play a major part in the prevention of these fires by talking to our clients about it. At the very least, we can make our clients aware of the distinctions and let them make an informed decision about what they should do about it. So when it comes to fires, we're not really leading the country or the world as far as prevention. We're a third world country. For example, New York City Fire Department responds to more calls per year than all of the country of Japan. Statistically, the Swiss do the best. Singapore, not so bad, which is really surprising, I think. Sweden and UK follow, and the US is last at 12.3 deaths per million population. We could do a lot better than that. Number of households in the US with ionization smoke detectors, 90 to 95%, which is equivalent to 100 to 105 million homes. That's a lot of smoke detectors. 50 million smoke detectors were installed in buildings in a 2-year period, and the result was fire loss and the death rate went up. Nationally, the percentage of people dying when the smoke detector works but it goes off too late is about 40%. That's not a good rate for smoke detectors. Where they start, when they start, how they start, and the end result of that. Most fires start in the kitchen. They're going to be cooking fires. Kitchen fires account for 43% of fires, 16% of deaths, 39% of injuries, and it can happen to any kitchen, not just specific kinds of kitchens. The next most dangerous place, the living room, the family room, the den, bedrooms, they account for 12% of fires, 49% of deaths, 32% of injuries. Roughly 20% of deadly fires started in upholstery furniture, known as smoldering fires. And there's a big reason for that, which I will get into in a second. Smokers, people who smoke, are 3 times more likely to die from a fire due to smokers' proximity to the fire, and they are less likely to set off the smoke alarm, which may be a distance away from them. In smoking fires, 25% of victims were not smokers. 34% were other victims' children. 25% were neighbors from adjacent units or friends. Smoking is the second leading cause of fatal fires. 1984, codes require 1 alarm per level. 85, UL 217, sensitivity levels lowered to reduce nuisance tripping. 1988 to 89, codes and the National Fire Prevention Association require smoke alarms in bedrooms and interconnected to new construction. 1999, NFPA requires smoke alarm replacement after 10 years, and that's still true today. 2009, homes with at least one smoke alarm, 95%. That's not too bad. So what's the difference between alarms and detectors? Smoke detectors are sensors only connected to a central system with separate annunciator or horn. Those are called smoke detectors. Smoke alarms, a single station, sensor, and annunciator or horn in a single package. That's typically what you find in condominium units and single-family homes. In residential construction, nationally, the two smoke sensor types found are ionization and photoelectric, also known as optical sensors. These are the most prevalent types in the U.S. It represents 95% of residential homes and units. And how they work: detect small particles 3 microns or less. Advantages to ionization: they're cheaper to buy, very good at fast flaming fires with little visible smoke, best at detecting small, fast-moving smoke particles, suitable for general use, less prone to false alarms due to dust and steam. Disadvantages: very susceptible to nuisance alarms due to cooking, maybe slow to respond or slow smoldering fires, poor at detecting large, slow-moving particles, contains radioactive material. Photoelectric or optical sensors.
On your smoke detector.
Advantages: good for smoldering fires and dense smoke, not as prone to cooking nuisance alarms. Detects larger smoke particles, best at 0.5 microns or larger. Contains no radioactive material, suitable for general use. Disadvantages: prone to nuisance alarms from dust and insects. They must be cleaned periodically, and they're more expensive. You want to keep in mind that almost 2/3 of all residential fires occur in homes with either no alarm or non-functional alarms. Homes with no alarms, about 4%. Homes where a non-functional alarm is installed but fire deaths occur, 96%. That is a high percentage rate, folks. Why does that happen? Because the wrong type of alarm was used, or it's been disconnected because of nuisance triggering. 50% of households surveyed had either no alarm or a non-functional alarm. Those households account for 2/3 of fire deaths. Reason for disabling: they all cited nuisance trips as the reason for disconnecting or removing, or not bothering to change the battery. So what's changed? Well, a lot of smoldering fires has to do with the type of furniture we buy and what's on the market today. It's all engineered products. It's not real hardwoods or stick frame furniture like we used to having back 100 years ago when furniture was made that way. Now everything is engineered wood, synthetic materials, and that's greatly reduced the escape times when a fire occurs and people want to exit the property. Engineered wood framing burns to structural failure significantly faster than dimensional lumber and natural materials. The time for ignition to flashover has fallen significantly due to modern synthetic and composite wood materials. An example: 2 rooms were ignited by placing a lit candle on the right side of the sofa. 2 separate rooms. The fires were allowed to grow until flashover. The natural material room flashed in 29 minutes 30 seconds. The synthetic composite room flashed in just 3 minutes 30 seconds. So you can see where the escape time with both of those scenarios is greatly reduced. National Institute of Standards and Technology compared escape times from house fires before and after the increase of synthetic materials in home furnishings. Escape times in 1975, when a lot more dimensional lumber and natural material was used in furniture, was 17 minutes. Escape times in 2015, where more synthetic material is used due to cost, dropped down to 3 minutes. Big change. Where do we want to place? Where do we want to place smoke detectors? There's a schematic right there for a multi-story building, and this is a schematic for a single-level building. And they're required to be connected now, so you're going to have battery and hardwired working together. Where do they go? You should not be tucked in a corner someplace, because that's a dead airspace when it comes to smoke detectors. It can't sense properly. You should be at least 4 inches away from the vertical corner and 4 inches away from the horizontal corner, and you should be no lower than 12 inches from the ceiling. That's the optimal place to put them. The bottom line: smoldering items are detected quicker by optical sensors. Flames are detected quicker by ion sensors. If you only have one type, make it optical. If you can have both or a combination. They do make combinations now that did not exist 20 years ago, but they're also more expensive, probably in the $60 to $70 range, versus buying a single one for $20, $25. Whatever you do, don't have an ion by its own. You cannot trust them to do under certain smoldering fire circumstances. Are there any questions? I know that was a quickie, but that was the time I was allotted.
Mike, how would a consumer know the difference if they were to want to choose between them? How would they know the difference?
They're labeled. When you buy them, they got labels on them. They also got expiration dates on them. Once they're installed, as a home inspector, we're not going to take them down and look for that date or that label because it's on the back side. But that's why when you buy them, that's how you determine which is which.
Hey,
and
Mike.
If it's a combination of both, it'll say combination on it.
Sorry. What if the ceiling is bigger than 12 feet?
It shouldn't
Taller
matter.
than 12 feet.
It shouldn't matter because you need to follow the 4-inch requirement and the no lower than 12-inch requirement, because it's going to detect smoke, not fire, and smoke is always going to want to rise, so it'll go to the 12-foot ceiling.